psychosocial care, which often is neglected, but nowadays it is picking up. We have a dedicated institute in Bangalore, Nidm, which usually conducts studies after every disaster on the psychosocial impact. And they have come up with so many games and so many studies and so many ideas on how this psychosocial care can be addressed. So this presentation basically has been taken from them. For this, you have two courses that is being run by Nidm. One is a basic course of counseling, 3 days to 5 days, and another is advanced course of counseling. So this is how, and they run usually in Bangalore, their institute, and they are also open if any institutions call them for the program. So they tailor-made that program for the organization and they conduct it. So you, if you wish to be getting some basic knowledge about counseling, you can request them, they'll come and they'll train. So that is where this institution is all about. And what we would be discussing right now is, it's not only the survivors who are stressed, it is the caregivers also. Why caregivers? One, because of the time they are spending on ground, long hours of working. Number two, seeing blood and destruction everywhere, every time they are on the ground. And three, they are human beings. So all these three aspects make them also vulnerable for the mental stress. Another mental stress which you and me both are going on. What is that mental stress? One, today when we will be off, when we are closing. And number two, again, the language barriers. This is always there. The language barriers are always there. So these are the two stress that we are going through. In this psychosocial care, I'll run through the presentation later on. We'll start with a certain game that they play to describe the situation that usually gets on the ground. The fact why psychosocial care is often neglected is that it takes time to identify who actually needs it. You might not find anybody who is needing the psychosocial care as it is. In the survivors camp, you might not find people without a certain information as to whether he needs psychosocial support or not. For this, you need to have a support of the local community. Why local community? Because see, we are sitting here, we know the behavior of our own people, where we are living. After certain disaster or certain emergency, you must have found out that the behavior of certain people, they change. They might transform into more talkative person. You might have found in these studies also that the domestic violence after the disaster increases. Why? Because of the change in behavior of people who have survived that destruction. And that change of behavior can only be informed by somebody who is your near and dear or your community person. And whether the behavior has changed or not. You might have found somebody who was very jolly, very talkative, very mixing. Suddenly after a disaster, it sits alone. He doesn't want to mingle with people. It sits alone at some corner, some deserted corner, some dark place. You might have seen in the feature films also like this, people immediately changing and sitting somewhere in dark. Every time getting those nightmares. What has happened? Why it has happened? I have two examples, two live examples of that, the change in behavior. There was one lady in Velankani, Tamil Nadu. Why I am coming again and in Tamil Nadu? Because we were there after the tsunami to document that. There was a lady, an old lady about 80 plus. She had two daughters. Both the daughters were married. She was Christian. And on 25th of December, one day before that tsunami came, she invited both the daughters and their family to Velankani. That it might be a possibility that I might not see another Christmas. So this Christmas we all will get together here. So both the families they came at third place. They offered prayers of the Christmas. They celebrated 25th. And on the very next morning, tsunami came. And to the ill-fated family, only that 80 plus lady, the rest entire family was vanished. Only that lady remained. Entire, both the family of the daughters, including their husbands and children, they all vanished. We could not find their bodies. You can imagine the plight of the mind and the thoughts that would have been going on in her mind. We met that lady and there was only one question that she was asking. I am the murderer of my family. Crucify me. I am the murderer of my family. crucify me, put me behind bars, put me on crucifixion, because I have led the death of my family. So it took about the psychosocial people, they were counseling her, and it took about, you can say, still I am not sure whether she is fully recovered or not, but about a year or so, it took the counseling people to get her back in talking terms with people. This is that, and the patience and the length of the psychosocial therapy that it requires. Another example is my own colleague. She went for a training in Seoul, Korea, and one night after returning from the field visit, in the parking lot, there was one old lady who was parking the car, and she was crossing the road to catch the bus that was provided to them, and the car hit. It crushed the leg of the colleague, my friend, and the height of the crush was such that when she was taken to the hospital, the doctor said the leg will be amputated. There is nothing left in this leg. That was the extent of damage. And she was, at that moment of time, 40 years old. Then there was certain dilemma going on in her family, whether to say yes for the amputation or not. She has life. Her husband was there, daughter was there, everybody was there. Then they took a call, discussing with the doctor. The doctor will perform an operation, joining the pieces of the leg. And if within 24 hours the blood circulation started, then only they'll try to do remedial actions on the leg. Otherwise they will amputate. And it was right from the knee, above the knee level, that could have been amputated. And 23 hours, that was what her family was saying, that 23 hours there was no blood circulation. So something was going on in the mind, whether it will start or not. But by God's grace, it started after 23rd hour. So then she was taken again for the operation and all that, and 23 operations were carried out on her leg. They had all the rods and everything planted, and still now, when we go with her to some place, she is not able to cross the road. The moment she sees the light, she gets disturbed. I can't cross the road. Still now. She has undergone psychosocial therapy and all that, but still now she is in that light that she cannot cross the road unless and until she is sitting in a car and crossing, or somebody is there to help her to cross the road. She cannot cross the road. These are the live examples that I have seen from my eyes. What is the extent of damage that your mental strength goes in after the disaster strikes. So, an important subject wherein the base that you need is the patience. You need patience to talk to these people. They'll never come out as open as we are. You have to sit with them for long hours, just sitting and seeing them, getting that rapport with them. That yes, we are here to support you. In that, the family, the community, they play a vital role. COVID-19, many of you have worked in COVID-19. In initial days of your work, we also underwent that. Society and the group of houses where we all were living, they were not ready to accept us back in the houses. Just because they were thinking that the moment we come in contact with them, we'll be contaminated by that COVID-19. So the doctors were also getting the same treatment by the people. There was stigma going on in the doctor's mind that we are here to help others, and the people who should have been with us are treating us as untouchables. We also underwent that. We went with the central team to different places to see whether the lockdown, etc. is going on or not, to the extent possible. And when we came back, we returned and we reached our home at about 10:30 in the night. And we could not get into the society, to our home, till 2:30 in the morning. We were sitting outside our society gates. They were not letting us in. Then we had to call doctors. They came along. They certified that no, the RT-PCR was taken, the rapid antigen test was taken. And when the doctor certified that yes, they are free from COVID, then only we were allowed to go inside. Sitting in front of our own eyes, not being let in by our own colleagues who were there. See, COVID-19 has given a lot of stress on this. And psychosocial care is what is very much needed. And how society can help, how your colleague can help, how your friend can help. In resounding and rejuvenating you as a person. So that is what background is all about the psychosocial care. Why we need that. This is what I was talking, the societal environment, which is very much needed. You all have worked in various disasters and COVID also. Unless and until you get a good environment to work in, it becomes difficult for long. So by virtue of order, by virtue of the directions, you are there to work. But after a certain period of time, it becomes difficult for you to work. if the same environment continues. See, if your boss is there who is so arrogant, by virtue of his position, you will have to work. There is no other option than that. But in your mind, 90% of you would be thinking, when will he get transferred from here? That is what we all think. And the moment order comes for the transfer, the environment changes. Everybody is jolly there. They'll try to give him the farewell a little early so that he goes. It's the environment. Thinking that the next person who would be coming could be a little better. But you never know. So in general life also, we are facing all the stress that we are undergo. So that stress needs an enabling environment to work. Your 100% output, your 90% output depends on the environment that you are working in. Whatever you get and you take it back, it's because of the environment that you are working. School and college days, remember that. Few teachers we still remember, and few teachers we don't want to remember. It's all this environment that is there. Teachers are same. They are teaching, but the way they are teaching and the way they communicate, the way they create the environment is how we try to remember them. That is what, without naming psychosocial care, we are using. Creating an environment where everybody is calm and quiet, listening, everything. And at certain point of time, many people they start rod, cane, start beating you, and at certain point of time you will say that the class should end. We had a trainer also like that. He was an IPS officer. And it was my first interaction with him. I was conducting a program and the next session was his. It was in UP. So he was an IPS officer, he came with a cane in his hand. And participants were sitting, they are all participants are usually, our participants are all adult and mature. He came. And after introduction, he said, "You see this? This is a cane. And if anybody from amongst you talks, number one. Number two, any mobile rings, I'll beat him and ask him to leave the class." This was the first interaction of that gentleman with the participants. So you can imagine the skill and knowledge that the participants would have got. He was a good teacher, that we know. And we have called him afterwards also and asked him to be little liberal. He came as a terror in the class, and his class was at I think 11:30 or so, and 11:25 he closed the door. Nobody will enter after that. I don't want to be disturbed when I am taking class. After 2-3 classes of his, usually what people started to do that, they tried to extend their tea. Usually it was after tea, morning tea. They tried to extend the tea and tried to be outside. Then maybe something happened to him. We also discussed with him. He said, how many people are there? We said, sir, it was 50. It's only 20, 23 they are sitting. Where are others? We said they are late, they are outside. So then I think after a gap of time he became liberal. But to that extent that he allowed people to inside. But not the keen aspect. It was there. Till the end it was there.
They stopped using cane?
Yes. No, he didn't stop using cane. We stopped him. Calling. That was the only option that we had. We stopped him. Inviting. He still telephones us that you have stopped me. What happened? Yes, he used for one person in front of me. Senior people like you, he used the cane. He went there, he just did like this on his head and said, you please get out of the class. He did that. But it's not that he just kept that cane, he used that cane. So he is still calling us that you are not inviting, why you are not inviting. So we have no option to say that, sir, as soon as the class will come, as per your environment, we will invite you. That is the only option that we have. There are people there. You try to be so harsh on the people that at certain point of time they'll adapt to the situation and adopt certain activities which will keep them away from that environment. So he retired as DGP UP with DGP Vigilance, and he is still residing in Lucknow, and whenever we have a course, so before this course also we received a call that you are going to Kerala. Kerala is a good place. Nice. So we said, sir, nobody will pay for you. This was the answer from our side, sir. Nobody will pay you your travel, so we can't invite you. If you can bear your travel, we have no objection. So that is, nobody will bear his own expense coming here.
He may be beaten back.
First secretary.
First secretary?
Vice.
So that is the problem. That we have the trainers of such a situation.
In Kerala, he may be beaten back.
Yeah, he might be. Everywhere there is a first aid. So for psychosocial first aid, we are here. You can see first and the foremost thing is safety. Both ways. Safety of the information that is being shared, the confidentiality of the statement that is being shared, the safety of the person whom you are talking to and safety of yourself. And this safety depends on the environment that you are creating. At times you create certain environment that the person who is already suffering from stress, he gets more stress and becomes violent. So that safety is important. Calmness, patience, it is again important. Because psychosocial care is entirely a game ball of patience, how patient you are. It's entire ball game of patience. You should not get irritated being a counselor. Because it might be a possibility that if X needs the psychosocial care, you might have to go with him, sit with him for hours together without any discussion. You will just see him, he'll just see you. That's all. No discussion. For hours together you can be at that place. So that should not irritate you. Because if you get irritated, then the person whom you are counseling will never, he or she will never open of what exactly the problem is. We talked about the plan, what, why, what, when, how, who. Unless and until you know what is the problem, remedial actions are always questionable. What is the source of that problem? Remedial actions are always a big question. Can I have 2 volunteers, please? One lady and one gent. 2 volunteers. One lady, one gent. One lady, one gent. 2 volunteers, please. One lady, one gent. Force volunteer. Now what I will request them is change their shoes. No, not going there. Here only. Here only. Here only. Now you wear this. And try to walk. You also try to walk. Come back. Come back. Was there any problem? You have to. Any problem for you? No problem. Okay. Thank you. You can go back. Thank you. You have to adjust. Adjust for what? Adjust for understanding other men's problem. You might face certain difficulties when you are in somebody else's place, but you have to adjust. Adjust for the environment. What is that? This, at the time of disaster, you will face. You face certain this type of problems when you go to the temple. You will not, when you come back, you will not find your sandals. That is there. In the temple, you find it. You go, you come back, you will search, you will not find it. That is there. But The idea of this was that whenever you are going to any place, you might find yourself in such a situation which you were not expecting. And there your idea of adjustment comes in. How you feel happy about what you are doing. Sir walked along with that not so adjustable slippers, but he walked along. Why? Because he tried to adjust, and whatever space he could get, he adjusted. He didn't get irritated. How can I do that? His question could have been, how can I do that? This is not my slippers. I'll not be adjusted. There are people who say like this. There are people who are somewhat, they start with negative concept, whether it will happen or not. Whatever be the case, whether it will happen or not. You start with that. So your 100% is now 80%, because 20% is not. 20% is not. Whether it will happen or not. So 20% goes with not. So you are left with 80%. Then if there is not a good environment, again 20% is lost. So even if you started with 100%, you are adjusted with only 80% or 70% or 60%. This is what, even if you are 100% dedicated, you only try to deliver 60% to the maximum level. That is there. You start with that thinking. But if you start with the thinking of, no, I can do it. We all have somewhere studied that Hitler, there is no word called impossible. Impossible says, I am possible. There is no impossible. Impossible says, I am possible. So with that mindset he started Hitler. We think Hitler was a bad man, that is what has been told, but there are certain things that Hitler gave it to us, the positive thinking. No, we can do it. See, you are climbing a wall. There is again a story of the ant that is climbing. Try and try again, that we all say. Here also you have to do that. Try and try again. Get the person open. Get the person open. If you go and say, oh sorry, what has happened to you, sir? Sorry, 100 people have said to him. Everybody who comes to a victim says, sorry, what has happened? Oh, I'm really sorry. What has happened? So he says, you are one amongst the others. So he'll never open the book. He'll never have he'll keep a distance from you. He'll never try to be friendly with you. So you have to be calm enough. You have to be patient enough. You have to create that environment wherein he tries to share. He feels that yes, I am at ease. And this is the person whom I can share with. See, in 90% of the families, we say girls are closer to the father. We say girls are closer to the father and sons are closer to the mother. We all, wherever we go, we study this. Daughters are more nearer to their fathers. But when it comes to sharing of the information, "99% of the cases, mothers do share the information with their daughters. Might be same gender, it might be comfortability, it might be something which you don't want to disclose, but mothers do share with their daughters. Father will try to share with their sons. The comfortability level. How good we are comfortably placed with the person, then we will share. There are people who share n number of things with their friends. And when it comes to the family, maybe they don't share entirely. It's the comfortability, the environment, comfortable environment that you need. Whenever we try to discuss something which is confidential, the first thing that you say is, please don't share. Whatever I am discussing, please don't share. You know that the person whom you are talking is not controlled by you. He might share, but still you feel at ease, so you can share. This is what it is all about. Again, what we were doing, identify the impact. Identify. Training, India. First two words, identify the needs. Identify the impact. With the help of people who are around. Many of you might be working at same place. I was going through the list that has been uploaded in the group, transfer and posting. Many of you would have been transferred, many of you would have come to Tirunelvelim, or many of you would have been transferred to some other department within the place you were working. Whenever we conduct a program in Delhi, people, they float around. And there are many nominations for Delhi. We have to then choose whom to pick, whom not to pick. Is Delhi environment better than Kerala?
Delhi.
So what is there? Many of you might have a need there. IS people, they try to flock in Delhi because they have their own departments, head office there. They want prime posting. So they need to go to Delhi. State people, they try to come to capital city. There you can. identify who is the right person to get the prime posting or right posting. That is your need of your working environment. Good environment, good need for the family. Yes, if we are at the capital, we will find good schools, good colleges. Those are all needs that you get. So identify. Here it is impact because we are doing post-disaster care. Psychosocial care is post-disaster, so hence we are talking of identify the impact. Impact on a person. You eat food, everybody is eating food. Everybody is eating food. Somebody gets upset stomach, somebody is okay. Food is same. See impact, your vulnerability, your how you get impacted on that. You have to identify that physical impact, economical impact, whatever impact it is. Identify the nature first. Because psychosocial care is entirely behavioral aspect. It is entirely behavioral aspect. Nothing other than behavior. We have so many games for this. Can we have 7 volunteers? We will play the game. Get the things done. 7 volunteers, please. Other than those who have come. 7 volunteers other than those who have already come. Come. We don't have time. In disasters, we don't have time. This is the only place where we are poor. This is the only place we are poor. So we'll have one game wherein. Yes, come. Good. We have 3, 4. Good. We have to be patient. They'll come. Come, sir. Yes. Now, after these people who are here, I need one more volunteer, whom I'll ask him to go out. Anybody who is willing to go out? Not amongst you. Anybody who is willing to go out for 5 minutes or for 2 minutes only? I request you come here. Yes. Conversion into Malayalam. You have to choose one leader. Leader will do certain activity like this. She has to come here and identify the leader. She has to come inside, identify the leader. So now it is your duty that she should not identify the leader. That is how you play. If all will not do the same activity, how can you identify? So she has to identify. Leader is the one who will change the activity. Okay. Leader will change the activity so that activities changes, She has to observe and identify. Don't see it. Otherwise it will be easier for identification. Yes. Maybe a little bigger group.
No.
A little bigger group. Keep a space for her to stand. Yes. No. No. Go back. You were the leader? Go back.
So actually, who was the leader?
You were very near. Thank you for the volunteers. This is what is invisible. This is what is invisible. What we were doing, she was not knowing what is happening inside. As a responder, she came in. She has to identify certain person wherein all people follow that person. So that if you are going into a society, trying to get a thing done, you should identify a certain person who will help you get that. Help you get that work done. She was identifying. Coming from outside, she was not knowing what is happening. You all were doing certain activity. So the need was something invisible here. She had to identify that. What do you mean by ventilation?
Proper air circulation.
Proper air circulation. How many of you have used pressure cooker? Almost all? What is the idea behind pressure cooker? Cooking of the food is your aim. What is the process that is followed? Pressure created. Pressure created. Pressure is created there. You close the lid, heat it, pressure is created. Then you have a safety valve which releases the pressure. If that safety valve is dilapidated, what will happen?
Storage of pressure will decrease.
Storage of pressure will decrease, or if it is increased, there will be a blast. There will be a blast. That is here. That is the idea here. Pressure that is created in the mind has to be ventilated. Safety valve has to be created. Safety valve has to be created so that the pressure which has been created as a pressure cooker, that is released. The same is the idea with the ventilation that you have in the houses. The pressure that is created by the heat of the people is released through those ventilations. In the olden days, you didn't have these ACs. Still, the rooms were cool enough because of the proper ventilation. This is the idea. And this takes the maximum time. This takes the maximum time to get things out of the person. To release the pressure, it takes the maximum time. For this, you might have to be with that person for how long, nobody knows. Counselors also sit together for time together. First thing is ventilation that you do. Release the pressure. Try to create that environment. That was what I was discussing. Enabling environment. Try to create that environment wherein person will feel at ease and start thinking of sharing. The moment that is released, your activity or your idea of counseling him becomes easy. Till the time that pressure is there, very difficult. So you have to act as the safety wall of the pressure or ventilator of the room. Second is empathy, not sympathy. We have been discussing empathy till now. Exercise was empathy. Put your foot in another one's leg, another one's shoes. You will identify the problem. Try to consider yourself as a victim. Then your mind will start functioning that what problem he or she is facing. If you consider yourself to be a responder, there will be a gap. You might save that person, but you will not be a good psychosocial counselor. When we come to know that what the problem is, then only we start thinking of the remedial action. So for getting that, this is what I was discussing. Oh sir, sorry what has happened to you. Just sit there. Try to get the person out of where he or she is. It is very scientific, it takes time. You have to be trained as a counselor for doing all these activities. But usually at houses you will have seen these things. If there is a death in the house, if there is a death in the house, the most near one, sometimes he or she will not weep. Just sit there. Sometimes. It's not always, sometimes. He or she will sit there, not weep, with the dead body. So, idea, the pressure is building up. Pressure is building up with that person. Ventilation is not being done. So the elderly people, they usually say, you might have seen in the feature films also, in the cinema halls you might have seen the feature films. That feature films, somewhere some idea is that let the person weep. Do something that he or she weeps. Idea is ventilation. pressure that is building if you are drinking. 90% of the things they ease out. As this basically ventilation is the basic cause for these suicidal activities. The study says women have larger tendency of thinking of suicidal, but the actual suicide, men have more suicide cases than women. Why that is? See, women, as a nature, women is always considered to be caregiver. Women is always considered to be a caregiver as a natural thing. Moment you are hit by something, your caregiver nature takes charge. And you start thinking, I have done this, I should commit suicide. I could not save, I should commit suicide. Idea comes. But suicide, men will do it. The action of suicide, there is a study says that men are more in number who commit suicide. Why? We have men folk here. Why? See, go back to your childhood days. Go back to your childhood days. Ladies also go back to your childhood days. What was the toy given to you? What was the toy that was given to you when you were small?
I got a green parrot.
Green parrot. Baby doll. Kitchen things. What men folk has to say? Gun, car, bat, ball, hockey, machine gun. These are the things that usually you get. Usually you get this. What is the change? What is the change? Women are being developed as a caregiver, and you are being developed as a protector. Men folk are being developed as a protector. You will protect everything. The moment that is hit, since you have been generated as a protector and as a vibrant and as that thing, you immediately commit something. Moment you are not able to do, you immediately commit something. Women usually will think, I will do, what will happen? What will happen? Because they are naturally caregivers. Men, right from day one when you are born, one thing you will listen every time. You are man, don't weep. You are man, don't weep. In school, college days also, if you start weeping, oh, how are you weeping? Like a girl. This is what the answer is. I am not objecting anything, but this is what we get in the colleges also. So how can you weep like a girl? your upbringing is don't weep. You are not made to weep. That is what your upbringing is. And what that creates, see, at certain point of time, when you are old, your behaviors 99% are stable. They don't change easily. So you have been grown up with that idea, you don't have to weep because you are a man. When you are hit by a disaster and you lose something, the idea that has been given to you, you don't have to weep. So that creates a pressure. That I don't have to weep. I can't weep. That creates a pressure. And releasing that pressure, the easiest way is to commit suicide. Easiest way is to commit suicide. I am gone, let everybody think. So that is why the action of suicide is more in men, but thinking of suicide is more in women. Idea, unless until you have this ventilation. It sounds easy, but it is very difficult. We tend to get irritated. Oh, he is not speaking for the past 7 days. How can I come and sit again and again here? This is our nature. I can't waste time sitting in front of this man who is not speaking anything. Let us do something else. This is what usually comes in our mind. There we fail to that entire counseling basis. Get the ventilation, be patient. You have to be there. Don't consider that you are wasting time. You are getting that man back. You are getting that man back to the society. You are helping your own society by getting that man back. The third thing, what is this? This is again, once you have settled with that man, created an environment, created a relationship with him or her, whosoever it is, if that man has trust in you, he will try to disclose why the problem is. At that moment of time, only listen to what he or she is saying. Only listen. Don't speak up, otherwise again blockade will be there. Don't speak up. Let that man come up. Whatever. The whole idea is to ventilate that man. If he shares whatever it is, your 90% of the things are solved. Ventilation goes. So active listening. The down below it is written how your sitting posture should be. You can sit like this, square. You can sit tilted in front. You should have eye-to-eye contact with the person. These are all creating an environment that person builds a trust in you. You do a business with a person, you do an office work with a person whom you trust most. You will give your key to a person whom you trust most. You will never give to a person who comes, sir key de dijiyega, you will never give. You will always search for a person you trust the most. That trust building is what is needed. Once that trust building is there, person will start sharing with you the problems. Why that problem has been created. And once he starts sharing, you get 60% of the information that you needed for designing the remedial activities. Only listen, don't speak. You cannot. That's all. Why him? So that whosoever is speaking, he has that trust that you are listening. He has that trust that you are listening. Once he has that trust, he will continue to open up. And you need that answer for designing the remedial activities. So these are, once you have done all these three things, that means you have now created a good environment for his mindset. You have ventilated the pressure that was created. You have got to know the problem, and then you try to, ultimately what is recovery? You try to get that person back to the normal position in the society. That is what recovery is. You get that person back to the society as a normal person. Let the society accept that it was not madness. Often psychological patients are considered to be mad. That thin line is to be seen. They are not mad. They are abnormal due to certain conditions. They can be bad. If the psychosocial problem grows bigger, that it tends to become violent or so, then the medical help is needed. Otherwise, the psychosocial counselors, they can get that man. It need not be that you are a doctor to become a counselor, but yes, if you need a medical help, you need to be a doctor. But for becoming a counselor, anybody can become a counselor. Only thing is, he or she should have certain knowledge about that, skill about that, which you can get after you undergo a certain course, which NIMHANS and other such organizations do. Now we come to the very much needed, because that person should understand that I am still needed in this society. I am still needed in this society. See, if you try to get that man back and society says, no, he is mad, we will not take him back. Whatever effort you have done will be lost. Because your ultimate aim is to get him back, whosoever it is, him or her, get him or her back to the society for the normal conditions. Because recovery says that. We were talking about the recovery in this disaster management cycle. The recovery says that. You have to get every person back to the normal condition. If not, build back better that Tara ma'am was talking about. You have to build back. Get him back, get her back in this society. So for this, societal support is very much needed. Convince the society that he or she is not mad. He or she is only facing this problem because of certain abnormal conditions that have been created by the disaster. So that support is needed. This was taken care of in Kadalur. And usually in the jails also we find this. In the jails also we find this externalization of interest. What you were doing may be something of your interest, but at the same time you will have certain other interests also. So you have to get those interests. See what we do in jails. You are doing carpet making, chair making, like that, the activities. Just utilizing those minds. You should not be again back. Externalization of interest is more or less like that. That may be by force, but here you try to get what are the interest level of the person. Once that psycho part is over, otherwise you won't get this. You get those interests and try to engage that person in the interest for a certain period of time. Try to engage that person into whatever his or her interest areas are. See what we do. Usually when we start something, we say that do something which is easiest first. Then gradually go to the hard things. Why we do that? Don't start with hard, start with smoother things and then proceed towards hardness. Why we do that? To build your confidence level. It will be easier for you to accomplish a soft target. It will be easier for you to accomplish a soft target. But if you start with hard and you fail, you will keep yourself away from whatever you are doing. Oh, I will not do it, I will fail. That was what coming to many of the people who were coming here for delivering the lecture. I will not do it. How can I do it? I don't have the content. There are many things that might be coming to your minds. There is one gentleman who has taken a leave today because of the thing that he has to summarize the entire course. They have taken leave. It's because of that. You start thinking that no, I can't do it. Your first instance is no, I can't do it. But everybody came and spoke. Everybody came and spoke. Initially, yes, the stage fear is always there. How can I speak? The initial idea of speaking is basically, don't see at the faces. When you are speaking something for the first time, don't see at the faces. But that doesn't mean you close your eyes. That doesn't mean that. See something in front. Don't see at the faces. See something at the front, start speaking. people will think you are seeing. Simple. Simple. You stand here, see that door, and start speaking. Everybody will think that you are facing them. And slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly come down. Your confidence level will increase. And once you come down, everybody will accept you. So the initial idea when you are doing a session, see like this. You place a slab on the heads of participants, and just above that the slab, see that. Your entire thing will be gone. Because door or wall, they will not speak up back. They'll never question what you are doing, or they will never laugh. They will also never laugh. And you will be standing. Your confidence level will grow because you are speaking. And in front of people you are speaking. And slowly your level should come down. The moment slowly and slowly your confidence level grows, the eye level will come down to the participants. Then you can face the participants. Easily. You can face any participant, because then when your level will, the eye level will come down, you will also study for the content. Initially you might not study that deeply the content, but after that you will study the content and then you will deliver it. And by your experience, whosoever asks you a question, you can easily answer. Because experience is not less. You have that experience. The only thing is how to deliver that experience. See, initially in the houses also, when students prepare for group discussion or interview, they stand in front of the mirror and they interact. Because mirror will never come back. And slowly you grow the confidence and discuss. And once your level of eye comes down, you can face anybody then. Whosoever, big or small, you can face anybody. You have to work for this externalization of interest. And if you are working in the interest area, environment that is created is relaxation. You are relaxed. You were tensed yesterday. I know many of you were tensed yesterday. How can I come? That is why 60% of you went there. So that's natural. Nothing high, nothing low. That's natural. Because whatever your legs will be doing, nobody will be able to see when you are standing there. Whatever your legs are doing, nobody will be able to see. So your entire tension, these legs take. And when you are delivering a lecture, your entire tension, these legs take. They will do like this. They do like this. Everywhere. You will do like this. Somebody will do like this. Somebody will do like this. Then this. It will be done. But once you start delivering, you start with that, no problem. Slowly and slowly your confidence level will grow. If you find that You can become a trainer overnight? No. Nobody can become a trainer overnight. You will have to gain that confidence for becoming a trainer. Then you become relaxed as a trainer. You will enjoy. Once you start enjoying what you are doing, you are relaxed. In the offices also, if you start enjoying what you are doing, you are relaxed. The moment you start thinking, oh my God, one more button, one more button, one more button. Oh, this work also, oh my God. DM also, disaster management also, my God. How can I do? So many work, how can I do? I am a single man. How can I do? But you think on those days, the disaster days, when you do n number of things, you are the same man, same person. You are the same person. During disasters, you do n number of things. You call the ambulance, you call this, you call the JCBs, you console the people also. You do everything what is there on ground. Then in normal conditions, why can't we think that we do? I am the same person who has done this. In normal times, why that fear? How can I do? Build that confidence that you can do. And we all say Rome was not built in a day. It's all. If you have that courage, you can build Rome in a day. Self-confidence is what is needed. Yes, I can do. In a day or two, you will see the transformation within yourselves. Think positively. Yes, I can do. It's nothing but your own thing. It's nothing Herculean task, nothing to it. No rocket science that is coming in. It's all we, yes, we can do. That's the thought process should go. Yes, we can do. And you will see that whatever comes, at least you will try to. You succeed or not, that is a future path. But at least you will try to. No matter who is the boss. I'll do my work. That's all. And the final thing of this, everything, if you still feel that relaxation, ventilation, everything is not getting the person back to the society. The psycho part is necessary. All those ventilation, active listening, that is necessary to get the information. But for social part, if you feel that the externalization of interest or society or relaxation activities are not functioning, then what is the last thing? What is the last thing? Pray God. And pray God here means get some spiritual things around that will relax the mind. Get some spiritual things around. That doesn't mean that you take a kamandal and go. No, that doesn't mean that. Leave the house, get the kamandal and go to the Himalayas. No. That doesn't mean that. It only means create that spiritual environment. Usually when we go to the temples, we feel relaxed. That is what the idea is. Spirituality is there. Yoga that is there. You can do that. You can use that things. Listen to bhajan, kirtan. All those spiritual things that you can do. Get the person relaxed. And the moment he is relaxed and entire thing is there, with the help of this society, place him back in this society. The whole idea of recovery. It is not the buildings that has to be recovered. It is the person also that has to be recovered. Schools don't mean anything unless you have students in that. So students are the essence of this school. So people are essence of this society. So you have to get that essence of this society back to this society. That construction, reconstruction, everything will follow when person comes back. Whatever you need, you try to create the path. As water creates a path. You try to stop the water, it will take the path. So when you are back in this society, whatever needs you will have it. You will try to accomplish those needs. So your psychosocial part, when you are back in this society, your mind becomes strong. That yes, society needs me, I have to work for this society. And things are done. This is what entire psychosocial care is about. For all these 7 things, you have a course. To be certified counselor. First aid also has a course. To be certified first aid. Everything what you do. Whenever you go out, people will ask, do you have this certificate? For family you can do without certificate. But when you are going to the society, they need something. So that is what is said, that please, whenever you are doing anything, CPR, etc., see for your own safety first. See for your own safety first, and then you can work for it. Any question on that? Any question? So that means 2 inches above, 2 inches down. Is it 2 inches above or 2 inches down? So thank you very much. Thank you.